Age of Wonders 4 receives one of its transformational updates yet again, this time with Primal Fury, the paid DLC, and the free Wolf update. In this video, I'll be exploring all of the major changes, so please consider subscribing and joining us if you haven't already. Let's get the show on the road, starting with the new realm and its features, of course, a Primal Fury update. Inside the Tier 3 realm of WILDWATER, you'll see Primal Dispute. Perhaps the most significant part of it. Essentially, there are two god here, they're fighting against one another, at war with one another, and you can choose a side or not, and this will lead to victory ultimately. There's also hostile seas, which make ocean provinces affected by sea storms, beautiful looking things, and disastrous to units, suffering hit point damage, vision loss, but you will gain universal camouflage if you're me, hanging out at the sea. New races have also been introduced, Goatkin and Lupine. Goatkin, very hardy race, extra hit points, herbivores healing from plants, and some extra defense, nice and strong. Lupine, on the other hand, start by being highly athletic, so you'll move faster, quicker along the map, and you'll benefit in fights from being adjacent to allies with the second trait, Pack Tactics. These two are, of course, inside of the paid Primal Fury DLC. Don't worry, free update fans. We will get to some changes as well. They'll be laced through the video. Finally, before I move on from this section, though, don't forget there are, as always, some sneaky mounts available inside of the DLC here. It's Elephant and Mammoth, two gloriously big ones. Moving through to the new culture, seems logical to follow along. Here we have the Primal culture, which starts with but one affinity, but provides so much more. It works in quite a different way, at least during setup, where effectively you'll be tasked to choose one of the many, one for each affinity, primal animals. This will act as your sort of primal spirit, if you will, giving you perhaps a starting bias and the ability to build improvements where you mightn't normally be able to build them. Farms on sand terrain here, for example, inside of the Dune Serpent. They'll also tend to lean towards a certain yield, whether it be gold, knowledge, mana, knowledge with the tunneling spiders, gold here yet again with the ash sabertooth. They're all very unique, and of course they're also tied to the actual spirit itself. Primal Mammoth, or Primal Crow, gaining the walk ability related to it, the ability to traverse a certain type of terrain, and have that type of terrain sort of bleed out from your empire as well. You'll find their temples very early on, usually within one tile of your city, maybe two at worst, I'm not quite sure on the specifics. Once you interact with them, again very easy, you'll be able to build the unique improvement within your city and start to spread, in this case, my snowy tiles, perhaps somewhat fruitlessly, across the map. Also here you can see the underground spider, another one that I think is potentially very strong. You'll get unique research as well, so your units that potentially aren't quite so, in this case, primally inclined with the glacial mammoth, they can benefit from the overall stat changes as well. Very flavorful, very fun. I love these two additions. Of course, there's still that friction where you can just change the traits related to them, so a lot of this stuff is potentially just aesthetic, but with the culture, I think, they've absolutely nailed it. Really fun, really flavorful, and something a bit different. Speaking of different, our first free update to hero recruitment in this case, it's now being detached from overall city cap. City cap works the same as it used to. You'll start with a certain amount, you can increase it by spending Imperium in the tree. Now, hero recruitment works a little bit differently. Now you'll receive an additional increase by 1 each time to your hero cap procedurally throughout the game. First after a few turns, I believe turn 10, and subsequent increases each take 5 turns longer after that. You can also choose to just flat out spend Imperium, very expensive and becomes much more, of course, the more you want to do it, to increase your hero cap completely separately from everything else. The idea behind this, I think, is to open up the meta a little bit more. Heroes are very powerful, so let's separate them from city caps. So it's not just build a whole load of cities so you can get a whole load of powerful units. Now you could alternatively play small, right? Play a tall kingdom instead, supported by many, many heroes by spending Imperium. One other change that they've made to kind of balance them a little bit, balance heroes a little bit more, is that they've added a leadership clash. Essentially, if you have multiple heroes inside of an army, they'll receive a reduction in their morale and XP gain for themselves, their hero XP gain, in this kind of who's in charge, jostling sort of thing that's being simulated. Those are the, I think, quite neat changes to hero recruitment for free. Now, back to paid changes inside of Primal Fury. The first new tome, Fey Mists, is unlocked at tier 2, so fairly early on. You'll receive 2 affinities, of course, 2 distinct affinities, Nature and Astral. And inside of the tome, a very fun Mistling summon. I use this one a lot. Its Fey trick is very cool, as well as a variety of other spells, including the ability to make a tile misty and then level yourself up, buff yourself inside of mist. So there's some wonderful internal synergies here around creating mists, and then, of course, embracing it. Embracing the Fey, summoning the Mistlings, a summon spell, not a combat spell. Important distinction, of course, these days in Age of Wonders 4. I say these days, it's been like that for quite some time. But here he is. She, it, I don't know. Either way, one of my favorite little dudes that's been added into the update. Just wanted to give them a quick shout out here on the research screen. Moving swiftly along, the next thing that we'll be exploring, a free update and a very cool one, the Bounties feature. It comes alongside, of course, some changes that we've seen in a previous free update. This is what you're looking at here, the war coordination, the ability to sort of muster our allies, to bring them into a fight and send them at a very specific target. One of the ways that vassals have been updated over time in Age of Wonders 4. Alongside, by the way, a very competent, in my opinion, AI. Anyway, let's focus on the actual new feature, the bounties. These are essentially quests created by rulers like ourselves or other rulers in the game to take a city, usually, capture a target. These are, in my opinion, completely brilliant. Such a big win inside of the free update. And another, like I've sort of alluded to, transformational layer. Here you can see I'm selecting one, offering up a bounty. The target is a specific city. I can see the viability of it. Yes, somebody will probably take this on. And then I can offer up a bounty. In my opinion, very, very, very cheap to do. Bit of gold or mana or both. Set the task. And then, if you're lucky, somebody will accept the bounty. They'll have 20 turns to take, in this case, the city. Now, they'll send you updates, not just at the beginning. Hey, Goaty McGoatface, I accept your bounty. But also as they progress through, they'll give you a turn estimate, not likely to be correct, although perhaps in some instances it may be if you don't set an extraordinarily difficult challenge like I did here, for again, not a lot of money. I think great return on investment. Look at them go. They actually do it. Honestly, wonderful. Big win. Another win coming in the free update is the Necromancy system, which has received a significant rework, including some general changes to soul rewards on kills. The overall gain has been reduced, some changes to soulbound and constructing skeletons, which no longer comes with any necromancy tome. Instead, you can just use the new animation skills to raise undead units after combat. And here it is in action. It is a joy to use. Finally, the system feels a bit more impactful, with some changes to tomes as well, including Tome of Necromancy now being a tier 1 tome with that skeleton reanimation skill bonus, alongside other really powerful things as well that let you really dive in to the newly reformed necromancy system fairly early in the piece. Soul Collection, for example, the sustained world spell that lets you convert a little bit of gold, 30 gold, granted 10 souls per turn, and of course, as you fight, something you'll very much be doing, you'll be able to build a skeletal army as you march across enemy lands, raising the units. Now, there are some intricacies here as well. It's not quite just the surface level, made it easier to get souls, made the user interface better so you can easily just res some dead dudes and turn them into your army, keep on marching, keep on throwing them in. But there's a little bit of nuance here as well. You can see there are different types that you can select, and of course some wonderful story that goes along with it. But this is based around what units you kill, who you destroy, and ultimately who you're reanimating. Once you have the appropriate skill, of course, spending your souls to reanimate. Now, when you kill racial units, 15 souls, you'll be able to essentially reanimate the type of unit that was slain, the role of the unit that was killed. Whether it be a standard skeletal boy, shield, polearm, archer, battle mage are available. When killing non-racial units, you'll be able to get the tier 3 Bone Horror for 50 souls, or Bone Dragon for 100 once you have the appropriate reanimation spell unlocked. In a nutshell, that's how the system works. I've found it very easy to use. Like I say, I think this is another win for the free update. And speaking of wins, the Tome of Stormborne, while included inside of the paid DLC, Primal Fury is, I think, another great win, especially for naval empires. Again, building on some of the changes, both free and paid, that we've seen in updates gone by. Here we get access to some powerful, not just city structures, but also city spells. Units too, of course, follow with the Stormbringer inside of this tier 4 tome, again providing 1 nature and 1 astral affinity. Naga form, perhaps the most interesting part of this, the major race transformation inside of the DLC, allows you to adopt a very funky look alongside Slip Away, allowing you to sneak out of a fight that would have reduced your HP to 0 with a bit of temporary hit points. Alongside some resistances, Naga form changes your physical appearance too, giving you that serpentine, dare I say, mermaid tail. The overall look and aesthetic that you can piece together, again, is a great success, a great victory for Age of Wonders 4's customization front. Not, of course, looking past those frictions I alluded to earlier. Moving through, lightning storms and downpours are accompanied by Bounty of the Sea, doubling the base resources from coastal provinces. Some wonderful internal synergies that you can build up here. Coastal empires should be very happy with this Tome of Magic. And more broadly, of course, it suits the DLC fairly well. Moving through to a final free change, the Pantheon has been reworked significantly. Not just with new rewards, new events, but also these fantastic Ascension traits. They're very unique. Basically, there are 26 of them in total, but you can only choose one from, as you can see, a relatively short, a relatively narrow list. The options are determined based on your affinity and the tomes that you've selected throughout the game. I think that's a wonderful way to sort of better blend the Pantheon system with the actual game itself and the hero who has ascended. If they ascend again, they can change their trait, and also a quick note that ascended rulers will now be displayed in a different tab, a different list, a Pantheon list, as opposed to just custom rulers. The final thing to note here, some new stuff inside of the Pantheon. You can see from the Keeper's helmet right the way up that little part of the tree there entirely. And finally, there are some great quality of life updates included in the free update. It's a really mixed bag of things, so I'll just show you them on screen. There are random realm traits and trait randomization options, so you don't always need to pick them. Free cities have been updated a little bit now as well to take advantage of tome units that they've unlocked later in the game, and you can take advantage of them as well, using Rally of Lieges, of course. You can now dismantle provinces. They've added enchantment and transformation visual toggles as well, and a host of other things inside of both the UI, including a realm overview and combat overview option, and faction creation improvements, where you can now name the faction's starting city, as well as list its biography. And that, my friends, concludes this video. Age of Wonders 4 is by far and away one of the most requested games that I see come up in the comment sections or polls, probably because I've covered it quite a bit before, but also because I think, like you, it's great. So good. It's such a good strategy game. Perhaps a little bit slept on still. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but that's my opinion. I did have, this video is not sponsored, but I did have a sponsored video where I got to take an early look at the DLC, played through a full game. You can check that out on my channel if you'd like a gameplay video as well. But that will conclude this ramble. Thank you for watching. See you next time.